Today's guest is Dr. Rick Hanson, top psychologist and New York Times bestselling author who's taught everywhere from NASA to Google to Harvard. As a senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, Rick has spent decades studying how to rewire your brain for happiness. And the fix he's found is so simple, it's almost annoying we have not learned it sooner. In today's episode, you'll get a first principles look at what happiness actually looks like inside the brain, how to break free from ancient wiring that's keeping us stuck in negative loops, and Rick's simple system for hardwiring happiness directly into your nervous system. Rick, I am going to be completely honest with you. For most of my life, I have been pretty pissed off because I feel like this guy over here to my right, my brother, was born with this happy gene. And I was born this anxious wreck. And it's never been more obvious as we've spent the last 10 years working together that our brains operate very differently. So I would love to start this entire conversation by asking you, if we were to peek under the hood and we were to look at Nick's brain and my brain side by side, would we actually see any differences?
What a question. Well, let's take the day you were both born. We'll just start there.
Okay,
and
great.
There already would be some differences to the extent to which those differences track the difference in temperament, which you're speaking to. Like you're a little more anxious. There's a kind of a line that children tend to fall into three groups: fearful, flexible, and feisty.
And
I
never heard that before.
Yeah, you're talking about your brother is a little more on the flexible side. You're a little more fearful. I was also kind of reading you as maybe a little feisty too. So sometimes
I think I have a little bit of both.
Okay. Those go together. Yeah. There's a joke that if you have one kid, you believe in nurture, but if you have two kids, you believe in nature because your two kids are discernibly different, even though they come from a common environment. So there be that part. And then you grow up. You become who you are over time. And I would say if, hypothetically, you had more negative experiences, or even though events might be the same for each of you, your take on them maybe was more anxious or more aversive. We tend to have aversion to what's negative, and we tend to have pursuit of what's positive. You're describing your brother as a little more approach-oriented. You as a little more avoidance or withdrawal-oriented. This is a free psychotherapy session. I will not be charging you, and you will get what you pay for. But okay, so over time, yeah, we would probably see over time, by your ripe old age now, you're so old, you're just so old now, that your amygdala would probably be a little bigger than his. You're the alarm bell of the brain. Two of them on either side of the middle of the brain, and a little more reactive, and maybe the nearby adjacent part of the brain called the hippocampus would be a little smaller because stressful experiences, when we're anxious or irritated, that tends to release cortisol, which wears down the hippocampus. There might be some visible differences there. Brain imaging technology is really crude. Even though it's amazing, it's still really crude. There's a lot of stuff under the hood that it's just too small. At the cellular, molecular level, we couldn't detect. But yeah. As your mind changes, your brain changes. And lasting changes in the mind are reflected in lasting changes in the brain, which gives us a great opportunity to reach under the hood over time and change our brain for the better, which changes our mind for the better, which changes our life for the better as well. As we learn more about the hardware, we can then tune the software, the mental stream, our thoughts, our feelings, our perspectives, where we place our attention and how we relate to what our attention is resting on. We can tune the software, and in that way, we can gradually change the physical hardware that makes use of that software for what it's doing. Repeated patterns of mental activity require repeated patterns of neural activity, and repeated patterns of neural activity leave lasting traces behind, for better or worse.
I can literally listen to you speak about the brain for hours. And you're so passionate about the brain and happiness. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of where this all came from?
That's a sweet question. I will ask you back. When you were really little, did you ever have the sense that the grown-ups were messed up. Did you ever have this sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that there's just a certain amount of unnecessary unhappiness in the world. So I had that sense myself pretty young, and it kind of set me on my way. I did not know what to do about it, but I wanted to help, like you all, that you're moved to help. We're moved to help. And then as I got older, I was really unhappy. I was really miserable. I was a very dorky, shy, very young for my grade in school, a socially isolated kid. And I felt really kind of hopeless. And then right around age 15, and I know it was then because I was starting to read the book Dune and I identified with Paul Muad'Dib and the whole thing about learning. I realized that even though I won't swear on a podcast, I was messed up. I could not change the past. I could not change the present as it was in the moment, but I could change my future. I could learn a little and grow a little and get a little more skillful, a little less reactive, a little less clueless about girls, a little less pissed off at my parents, a little less shy. I could grow and change myself for the better. And that was like a total light bulb. Wow. We do have the power to influence who we are becoming. It's like a sacred power in the inner temple of your being. And no one can do it for you, but no one can stop you from doing it yourself. And to me, claiming that power, like you teach people how to do around kindness and so forth, is a really important thing, especially when we're pushed around by the world. We are, in a lot of ways. But inside our own beings, inside our own minds, we have tremendous influence, and it's up to us to use it.
Rick, I got to say I'm a little upset with you because you say you don't swear on podcasts, but I saw you swear on Chris Williamson's podcast. This is a safe space. You can say it, brother.
Okay.
You can say whatever you want to.
I should do that. Yeah, I was pretty fucked up. I still am, I'm sure. My wife will tell you, but...
You're right. I am the feisty one.
We all are. That's good.
Oh, man. That's funny. Oh, man. So I wanted to also...
That should be the fourth F, right? Fearful, feisty, friendly, and fucked up. Or flexible. There we go.
Hell yeah. Oh, man. One of the things I loved when I was reading your book, Hardwiring Happiness, was learning about states and traits.
Okay.
I want to talk about that because I feel like I never really thought of them the way that you described them in terms of the symbiotic relationship where you said earlier, the software can change the hardware. And in a way, I feel like that's kind of related to states and traits, where states are kind of like the software and traits are kind of like the hardware, and they influence each other. So can you like explain that a little bit more in depth for us?
Oh, yeah, it's great. So for one, people routinely have the experience that they like have a good intention. Oh, don't interrupt my wife so much, or don't be so hard on myself. All right, exercise more, or they do something. They listen to your podcast, they read my book, they go to a therapist. Something good happens, but an hour later it's gone. It's like it never happened. It's so frustrating. It's like all that value is just running through your fingers. And meanwhile, of course, the brain is designed to hold on to negative experiences. So what do we do about it? So let's suppose you're trying to develop something inside. If, like I've started exercising more seriously as I get older, and if you want to build a muscle, you have to work it. And then over time, it produces a lasting change. You want the lasting change. That's what you care about. You want to develop a good change for the better. Psychologically, it's much the same. To develop a lasting change for the better, you need to have multiple reps, multiple experiences that leave a lasting physical change. If you do reps with weights, automatically it will leave a lasting physical change behind. But repeated experiences of something like self-worth or calm or confidence or kindness for others don't necessarily leave traces behind because they wash through the brain so fast that it has not had time to make structure. We have not converted states of kindness to trait kindness, or states of resilience to trait resilience, or states of commitment to exercise or sobriety to trait sobriety, let's say. So how do we go from states to traits? And for me, it's about lasting value. I have a little bit of a business background, and I think about ROI, return on investment. You want to get that return. What's the return on our experiences? And how can we increase the return on our experiences, which means steepening our growth curve, steepening our learning curve. And that's been a real specialty of mine with a focus on so-called positive neuroplasticity. And there are evidence-based ways to increase the conversion from states to traits. In other words, to increase the degree to which this beneficial experience of kindness or resilience or self-worth or et cetera actually produces a lasting change in your brain. And for example, the longer we stay with an experience, the longer you keep the neurons firing together, the more they're going to tend to wire together. So stay with it for half a breath or 20 seconds in a row, maybe longer if you want. That's going to leave more of a trace behind. Feel it more in your body. A lot of times people they recognize that something's true. Oh, they like me, but you don't feel liked. Or I got the job done, but you don't feel a sense of accomplishment and relief. So help it become felt in your body. That leaves more traces behind. Another one of these evidence-based approaches is to focus on what's rewarding about it. What does it feel good about being kind? Or what is meaningful to you, let's say, about being kind? As you do these little things inside your own mind for a few seconds, nobody needs to know you're doing it. You could still be super cool, but you're doing it. And by doing it, you're taking control of the memory-making processes in your brain, the deep emotional memory. You're influencing who you are becoming by the way you relate to your experiences at the time. That's the process of turning states into traits to produce good change that lasts inside.
Yeah, this is this single idea has changed my life, and I'll double click that even further. There's one practice that you gave me, and I actually made a list to share with you.
Wow.
The practice is taking in the good, which is your method for soaking in those positive states so that we can fire those neurons together so that they can wire together so that they can become those traits that you're talking about. And obviously at the beginning of this podcast, I described to you, I have some traits that are not so great when it comes to happiness. So I started finding the jewels, as you like to say,
Oh, nice.
in my daily life, because I am also one of those people that I guess could be described as a high achiever that's always looking for the next thing, like the arrival fallacy. It's like I'm always chasing the next good thing without actually soaking in the good thing that's right in front of me. And I never realized how much I was doing that until I dedicated one entire day this week, because I knew this podcast was coming up. It was like my highest intention to take in the good. So here are some moments that happened, and I had one of the best days of my life. Simple moments. I held the door for someone. They smiled at me and they said very genuinely, "Thanks, man." And I really let that in for like a good few seconds. I was like, wow, that was such a beautiful human moment. Then I walked to my car after work and I realized that I forgot to pay the meter. So there should have been a ticket on my windshield, but there wasn't. Most of the time I would have just gotten in my car and said, "Oh, that's kind of cool." This time I really stopped and I was so grateful for the fact no ticket happened and that this was just smooth sailing on my way home. What a great moment. Then I was taking the dog for a walk in the morning and I was basically walking back towards my house. And as I did an about face, because the walk was coming to an end, the sun just soaked me in the face. And I just let the sun completely envelop my entire body into my face. I let it in and I was just like, wow, this feels so damn good. And I let it in for a few seconds and I really soaked it in. Then I had a cold shower in the gym. And it was something hard, something that I like forced myself to do because I knew the good feeling that was going to come on the other side. And I did it. And I just finally soaked in that moment of pride. Like, yeah, I did that hard thing, which is another thing that I never actually do, is give myself credit for the hard things that I do, because I give myself the stick and not the carrot. And just this one simple practice of extending those good moments helped me so deeply. I want to share one more thing and then I'll stop talking because I know I'm going on here. But Nick today said, "Did you find any of the good today? Using the practice?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "Well, did it change anything? Like, how did it feel?" I said, "It's one of those things that
it takes time for you to really feel the lasting effects. But in those moments, through, like you said, through the repetition, those states will get deeper and longer until they form into those traits. So I'm really, really excited about this. And I just wanted to say thank you very, very, very much.
Man, you've really touched my heart. Total tip of the hat to you. That's great. And if you're willing, I could ask you a question or two,
Please.
if it's okay.
I would love that.
Okay. So you're talking here about sort of hit and run, taking in the good in the flow of the day. Fantastic. And it really does change your day because you start looking for the ordinary jewels, so-called, that are actually real. Okay, great. Is there something in particular that you're trying to grow more inside yourself? Maybe to balance some of those tendencies you've described.
I would say one thing that I've struggled with for a very long time after going to tons of therapy and coaching is just loving myself unconditionally. Love is always on the other side of achievement, and it's very short-lived, is one of the patterns that I've noticed. So I would say loving myself unconditionally, feeling enough despite any of the goals that I'm chasing.
Well, so to point to a second major way to use these methods of changing your brain for the better and lasting ways, you could then look for experiences or adjacent experiences. Like loving oneself for me has always been a little strange. I don't quite connect to the languaging of it, but recognizing my innate goodness or appreciating it. I can find that, maybe you as well, could find
absolutely,
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Quick sidebar. I've done a lot of reckoning as I get older with my mistakes in my life and looking back and so forth, and really open to appropriate regret and remorse for certain things. And at a certain point, I was asking myself, or I was talking with our kids, actually, we have adult kids, about your age. And, we were just musing together about whether we'd had a life worth living. And what would be the questions you'd want to be able to answer about your life? Was it worth living? And what just arose in my mind was, did I bring my heart to it? So I'll ask you the question here. Did you bring your heart to it? Did you make efforts? And did you learn along the way? And can you credit yourself for that? So when you're having opportunities to experience a yes to any one of those, or more broadly, a sense of your own inherent innate goodness, when you're having an experience like that, then, for a breath or two or three, can you kind of marinate in it?
I love that. I would say my answer is yes to all three, like 90% of the time. I don't know. What would you say? You spend a lot of time with me.
I would say, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think your effort is always there. I think your answer is yes to those a lot of the times. You just get distracted by the shiny object that you want to arrive at, and you skip right over the good that's right in front of you. And I think that going back to the main point of this is like taking those few seconds with the good makes it so much stickier to our brains and makes us actually change, right? Why does our brain do this? Why do we need to work so hard to make the good stick?
It's really good that we're talking about this because to me, it's super hopeful to identify what, if it were more present in my mind, would really help. Help me feel better, help me be more successful at work, help me be more effective in my life. What am I trying to grow? It's like a garden. What am I trying to grow? And the way to grow it is you have to experience it and then take in the experience. So when you know what you're trying to grow, then you look for opportunities to feel it. Like experiences in this case, say, of, feeling of worth. You look for it. For me, my story was that I landed in college young with what felt like a huge hole in my heart. And I was shy. I was an outsider. There was a lack of the good. I wasn't particularly bullied or traumatized, but the absence of the good can affect people as much as the presence of the bad. What was missing. So I then kind of stumbled on this practice of realizing that what had been missing for me were experiences of being included and wanted. in kind of basic ways, included and wanted, which is so primary. And again, very close to your own work, right? And so I started looking for opportunities to feel included and wanted. And when it was naturally happening, and even I would do little things to help it to happen. And then when I noticed the good fact, I was actually included and wanted, I would help it become a good experience. I would feel it. And then I would kind of marinate in it for a few seconds in a row, maybe half a minute in a row. And in that way, I really felt like I was filling that hole in my heart. I was gradually taking in and growing inside myself in lasting ways what I really needed. And that was so important because to your question here, as I learned later, the brain has this hardwired negativity bias in which, check me here, it routinely does these 5 things. Tell me if you relate to them. And people listening. 1, scanning for bad news. Threats
Definitely.
outside or where I'm falling. Okay, you're nodding. Where I'm falling short inside. What's wrong? Scan for bad news. That's good, whatever. Keep looking. That's bad. Then second, focus on that. So as soon as we find that bad news, we over-focus on it. That's why positive emotion broadens people's perspective and helps them be more creative in problem solving. That's interesting. So, okay. We overreact to the bad. And then third, or we overfocus on it. And then third, we overreact to it. People react more to insults than to praise. They react more to loss than to gain. They, react more to negative interactions in their relationships than to positive ones. So we overreact to the negative. And then fourth, we overremember it. We remember negative information about other people more than positive information, celebrity gossip, political scandals. And in the body, we develop more of a sense of helplessness really quickly from just a few experiences, even one of being trapped and stuck. It takes many counter experiences to feel like we're a hammer instead of a nail. And then last, automatically, those negative experiences release cortisol in the brain. That goes to what I said about your amygdala and hippocampus that sensitize the alarm bell, hippocampus, and weaken and even kill cells in the hippocampus. The amygdala is the alarm bell. The hippocampus is nearby, so it becomes weaker. And that creates a vicious cycle. Negative experiences today, even just ordinary, stressful, exasperated, worried, irritable, driven kind of experiences, make us more sensitive to stress tomorrow. That's the negativity bias, which is great in the Stone Age or Jurassic Park or, frankly, a war zone. In Gaza or Ukraine or elsewhere, or to growing up in a war zone. It's useful some of the time, but for much of the time today, it makes people more depressed than they need to be and more cranky in relationships because they have a negativity bias too. When I read this stuff, I started thinking about my wife's perspective on our interactions. And I read, because of the negativity bias, positive interactions need to outnumber the negative ones by 2-to-1 or 5-to-1 even. Like, holy moly. I had to really clean up my act.
Step up your game.
Yeah, I'd raise my game. Not just kind of dump my casual crankiness in the space, creating negative stuff for her. Anyway, so that's why the brain's like that. And to me, this goes to, frankly, old school self-reliance and autonomy. I don't like being pushed around. Fuck them. I don't want to be pushed around, including by my brain's design, and inside your own mind, who's in charge? Who's the boss of who you are becoming? And for me, it's kind of old school. I want to reclaim that agency and value competence. Here's where I'll say women in general are much more interested in this stuff than guys are. That's why I think it's great that you're doing this. And also, to me, it's not a gendered value, but it's one that men tend to really appreciate around acquiring competence. And I know so many men who are interested in externally directed skillfulness with their forklift or their car or their woodworking or their fishing gear, I don't know, whatever. Cool. I'm into that. But what about internal competence with your own thoughts and feelings, becoming the master of your own mind over time? That matters too. Actually, it'll matter more than any of those
more
external.
important. It's way more important. I wanted to ask you, I feel like you're the right person to ask this question. Where does the reticular activating system play into this whole system? Because I've always heard the reticular activating system is the thing that basically, it's the red car theory, right? You see the red car and you buy a red car, you start seeing that red car everywhere. You're looking for a new wallet, you start noticing everyone's wallet. So it's like training your brain to look for that specific thing. So where does the reticular activating system come into play in the structures of the brain? And like, is that part of this or not?
Oh, that's so interesting. And you guys are great to talk with, and people should listen to your podcast every day. There you are.
I appreciate that.
7 minutes a day.
That's it. 7 minutes. Appreciate
for
the
real.
shout out.
Okay, so the brain evolved, nervous system evolved over 600 million years. So we're walking around as a human zoo, in which, more modern regions are kind of in the upper frontal areas, but you go back down the so-called neuroaxis, you go back in time. So we have this reticular activating system that's very ancient, and it's really about alerting and orienting. So, and flagging things as valuable, okay, in a very primary kind of way. So when it's cooking, we come up a little more upright. Our ancestors originally were moving around on all fours. It's rare for animals to be bipedal, to be standing upright, right? And consistently, not just a little bit like a polar bear maybe could do that, but really consistently. When you do that, you come up. So one way to juice the reticular activating system is to sit more upright. That's kind of a trick, a little bit of a hack. Yeah. And to move your gaze out, because like on the Savannah Plains, you want to track for threats. So you lift your gaze up and, that kind of makes you more present. That's kind of cool. And then, of course, you need to bring other systems online that are tracking what's valuable. And I myself am also very goal-directed. And I've been really grappling with the machinery of accomplishing and trying to develop more of an attitude of contentment and exploring how to feel content as the basis for goal-directedness rather than a deficit sense of discontent. You see the difference there?
It's really interesting. At one point in my life, I made friends with an older gentleman who was, I don't know, like 95 years old, and he was still writing emails and writing about his life and reflecting on it. And I remember so vividly one of his emails where he wrote about just slowing down time and taking in the little things that were happening all around him. And this one specific email, I don't know why, but he was talking about the ants that were crawling on the bricks next to him and how they were slowly just going to work, and him just slowing down time to just like acknowledge that moment. And it's always got me thinking, like, if that clarity of slowing down happens at the end of life, like why can't we try? I mean, we never know when our time is to go, but why can't we try to bring that wisdom and insight into right now? Why do we have to get to the end and wait for that moment where we're looking death in the face? Like, why can't we slow down and see the little good that's happening all around us right now, the little ants that are crawling and going to work? I don't know. That's always stuck with me.
Really cool. One time I used to do a lot of rock climbing, and I was in Colorado and El Dorado Canyon and doing a pretty hard route, 510 in the grading system. It's a real grade. And anyway, my friends were above me, and I was standing on this little tiny ledge, kind of a foot deep and 2 feet wide, and clipped in. I was safe. I was kind of getting ready to follow up them. And then I saw in front of me this little black ant, actually large as an ant, about half an inch long, pulling over the overhangs of these little crystals, moving around perfectly. And I thought, man, that ant is climbing at a much harder grade than my friends and I, with all our arrogant human sticky shoes and ropes and $1,000 worth of gear, blah, blah. It was doing better than us, with 100,000 neurons. An ant has about 100,000 neurons. We have about 85 billion neurons in the brain. So just to kind of scale it, but it was cool. It was really humbling. And I do wonder what kind of experiences is a honeybee having, or an ant, or a lizard or a goldfish or a cat, obviously. Anyway.
Speaking of time passing, is there any evidence that shows how long it actually takes for these states to turn into traits or for these physical changes to actually happen? Like if I continue to do this practice of finding the good every single day and soaking it in, like how long does it take for me to start noticing the lasting change?
There's not much research on that sort of thing. I mean, there is research that, I'll put it differently. If your mind has changed, that's evidence that your brain must have changed, even if we don't have the technology yet to be able to see the physical change down at the molecular level. But if your mind has changed, and so we've all had the sense that we've had an experience that was maybe negative and it changed us until we actually maybe healed it in some way. Similarly, maybe we've had a situation where we were with someone and it produced a shift inside us. Well, so there was a change. But usually it takes repetition, and the bigger the issue, the more the repetition. And one of the third major way we could talk about how the taking in the good can change your life, in addition to everyday jewels, as it were, and then second, growing a particular thing, is to deliberately look for those experiences that are antidotes or medicine for wounds inside. So, for example, if a person like me felt, inadequate a lot coming up through school, then experiences today of worth, either my own recognition or people giving me that recognition, become then the medicine that I can start to experience at the same time that I'm in touch with that old painful material, and the new good material starts to associate with that old painful material and gradually clears it out and heals it. That's a standard method. I call it linking, but it's a way to change yourself for the better in lasting ways. And I wanted to name that too. But there's research that shows literally when people do, for example, mindfulness practices, even for just a few minutes, that soon after you can measure change in their brain. To get lasting structural change that's big enough to really notice may take more than a little bit of practice. But my own view about it is that every little bit helps. And don't underestimate the power of the human heart, how we can actually change for the better.
I have a question for you, which is, how do you practice gratitude today in your everyday life? Do you write it down? Do you have a morning practice? What does it actually look like in your life?
It's interesting first that I think it helps gratitude to have your heart be open to what is sorrowful. It's paradoxical. If your gratitude is sort of superficial and it's about escapism or denial of injustice, children who are hungry, planet's getting hotter, politics, etc., then the gratitude doesn't land. So I want to contextualize it first. When you ask me how I do it, to me that frame's really important, right? And then how I do it is, for me, gratitude has to do not with what I've earned, but with gifts I've received. Right? I don't feel grateful that people, when I was doing therapy I don't feel grateful that they paid me for the hour. I'm glad they did, but I earned it. I do feel grateful when, somebody turns to me and opens a door for me that I can walk through, like you told that story earlier on. So that's an important kind of context. It's around receptivity. And so there has to be a willingness to be dependent, which is often hard for people, especially guys, to be thankful, like, oh, I depended on that. So that. And then the how of it, I have done things where I would write stuff down, but mostly now I just feel it. I feel a lot of thankfulness. And it's funny, as the older I get, I feel more and more aware of the fact that my life, this unique particular wave in the ocean of reality, nearly 14 billion years after the Big Bang, my life is a result of an extraordinary collection of conditions and factors and causes, which I did not create. Who could possibly earn human DNA? the product of our evolution, right? Life on this planet. And so I feel increasingly, honestly, blown away. I'm just kind of gobsmacked with gratitude a lot in the present moment making me. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Thank you.
I also feel like you have a very unique perspective as someone who's dove so deep into the neurobiology, and you've just seen how complex the systems really become. Like, we just learned about something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like the more you know about something, the more you realize you don't know about that thing. And I think that can create such a sense of wonder and appreciation, because the deeper you go into it, the more you realize, like, wow, this is all such a gift. Like, these systems, I didn't build any of these systems. They were just here when I got here,
It's humbling. It's great, I did this. So I have this weekly meditation thing that's free. It's online. You can check it. Anybody could check it out on Wednesday nights. And I did a talk a little while ago because I was in it about radical helplessness, radical trust, and radical acceptance. The truth is we're really helpless about so many things, cells that can just go wrong in our bodies, what other people do, governments, storms, earthquakes recently in Venezuela, for example. And meanwhile, can we trust? Can we trust in ourselves? Can we trust that we're a coper? Can we trust that we're someone who brings our heart to it and makes efforts and learns along the way? Can we trust? And ultimately, can we accept the fact that at some point, you fall back into the arms of reality and it's just not going to catch you that one last time and lights out? Can we live that way, And you guys are great. You're putting me in it's like drugs, just talking to you. It's like psychedelics. And I know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
Do you know this thing? One of the cooler things, like you brought up, what is the present moment, right? Like the answer in the present moment. Why can't we be in the present? What is the present moment? And it looks like it's very plausible that the present moment has to do with the fact that the four-dimensional, 3 of space, 1 of time, universe is expanding. And as the spatial dimensions of the universe expand, they're so vast we don't notice them. But the temporal expansion of the universe keeps moving us into the next moment of creation, necessarily leaving the present behind. Why do things keep changing? This is from this physicist at UC Berkeley, Robert Muller. It's legit. It makes total sense. That means that we're continually living at the front edge of now in the moment of creation.
Now we're the ones taking psychedelics. That is great.
So cool.
It is, man. Rick, we've had an amazing conversation. I want to end with one final question, which is, let's just say someone has tuned us out for the last 45 minutes. They've been driving. Everything has gone over their head. But right now they're perked up and they are fully in the present moment.
The reticular activating system is active.
They are fully here right now. And you can share one final message with them that has the ability to potentially change their life. What would you say to them?
Take in the good.
That's
for your own sake and for the sake of everyone else around you. And know that you matter enough to take in the good, to grow the good that lasts inside, and that you are worth getting on your own side for that. And know with confidence that when you take in the good, you will grow the good that lasts. You can trust that, literally with evidence and research. It really works. And when you can trust that you're building more of the good inside yourself, that gives you a great deal of confidence for how you enter into the next relationship, the next job, the next moment. Take in the good to grow the good that lasts inside.
Oh, man, that was perfect.
Beautiful mic drop moment, Rick. Thank you for being you. You've changed our life as you have many others, and we just want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
And listen to you guys every day.
Appreciate it, man. Peace.
Peace.